What up, dudes and dudettes? Welcome to a brand new video about Brand's new rework. Ha! See what I did there? Yeah, okay, I apologize. No, really, welcome to the League of Education. Sino is here with a guide to the new and improved Brand that will burn the crap out of your enemies until they can't take it anymore and start flaming each other. Seriously though, that's essentially what Brand's new passive does. But let's cut to the chase and kick off this guide. So Brand has always been that AoE mage that burns through people with his percentage of max health damage that his abilities apply on targets, and that's pretty much what Brand still does. Only Riot figured they would overtune him into the most OP champion since Feral Flare Warwick, but let's not talk about those dark days. The old version of Brand's passive, Blaze, would apply 8% of the target's maximum health over 4 seconds as magic damage, but now applies only 2%. However, this stacks when multiple abilities are used, and ultimately, applying Blaze to the same target 3 times detonates it in a fairly large area of effect, dealing a minimum of 12% of the maximum health of anyone caught in the area. And this scales up with levels and with AP, so by your full build, you can expect to be dealing on average around 26% of the maximum health of anyone caught in it. But wait, the detonation from Blaze also applies a stack of Blaze on other enemies if they're caught in the zone. This basically means that Brand is the new mage king of teamfights, to the point that he is literally unparalleled in terms of raw damage output. And the best thing about it all is that while being such a massive source of damage for your team, you can remain ridiculously safe in the way that you play and build. As a quick note to make, Brand's abilities were largely unchanged. Most of them received slight nerfs to compensate for the huge impact his passive has. So if you're not utilizing Brand's passive properly, there's pretty much no point of playing him because he would be weaker than he was before. But even if you're unranked level 4 and struggling against beginner bots, his third hit passive is so easy to proc. With a bit of practice, I'd be very surprised if you weren't able to use it properly in game. Just like before, Brand can be played in the mid just as well as a support role. I really enjoy him in both lanes, but absolutely love playing him as support. Since the changes, I've been playing Brand a lot, and I've won 6 out of 6 ranked games playing as him in mid to low diamond elo. The biggest difference between the old and new Brand is that with his passive detonation, you now have so much more kill pressure in the early game. I find this particularly attractive in the support role because at level 3, bot laners are generally squishy enough to destroy with just one rotation of your abilities and ignite. If your ADC wants to join in the fun, that's just a bonus. Brand can be played really aggressively and is an awesome pick for establishing an early lead and then snowballing that lead really well. The zonal pressure and damage that Brand provides is pretty much well above any other mage in the support role right now. As support, you generally start with your W, which is ridiculously easy to hit. Just aim it slightly behind your enemies as you run at them, or right underneath them when they try to farm minions. It's really important to hit your Ws because if you keep spamming them and missing, eventually your mana pool will run short and your enemies will still remain on full health. At level 2, you take Q merely for the kill pressure that your stun can provide if a fight happens to break out. At level 3, of course, you should have 1 point in all of your abilities and try to get a full spell rotation off, which does a lot of damage to squishy bot laners at level 3. So at this point, you should be trying to set up a kill when it's safe to do so. From here on, you max your W as your main poke ability and put points in your ultimate whenever possible. After that, I generally max Q, seeing as by this point in the game, you want to be keeping a distance from your enemies, so you'll find yourself at range to use your Q much more so than your E. In teamfights, you have the option of sitting back and laying down your initial burst on the closest target to you, which would be a rotation of your basic abilities. And from that point, you'd want to use your ultimate when there are a few champions clumped together. Or you can attempt to poke with your W and try and make a pick with a stun. This is a lot easier to set up as support because you can use your Frost Queen's claim to seek out enemies and slow them. My favourite part about Brand is his synergy with Rylai's and Liandry's. Once you build these 2 items as Brand, it's bloody game over, mate. Brand's passive applies 1 tick of damage every second for 4 seconds, so that means Rylai's is procced 4 times over this duration, turning Brand into a perma-slowing CC machine. The amount of utility this provides is absolutely unreal. Everyone seems to underestimate how overpowered this really is. For the icing on the cake, we have the beautiful Liandry's Torment, which applies damage based on an enemy's current health. This passive effect gets a proc every time Brand's passive ticks, And the damage from Leandries is doubled to movement impaired units, making its synergy with Rylai's just a joke. That's all it is, it's a big joke that Rye is playing on us. But the even bigger joke is that barely anyone realizes how OP this really is. Oh, and while we're on the note of damage proccing over 9,000 times in one spell rotation, I'll take the opportunity to tell you that the most optimal masteries are 18, 12, and 0 with Deathfire touches your keystone because, you guessed it, it procs every bloody time your passive damage ticks. An important thing to note, which adds to the ridiculousness of this strategy, is that this build makes you so tanky that you can get away with more sloppy play than most other mages. And if you don't play sloppily, well, that makes you almost entirely unpunishable. In the mid lane, I play Bran with the same runes that I use for most mages. Ability power quintessences, magic penetration marks, scaling health per level seals, and scaling cooldown reduction glyphs. As support, I like to run ability power quints, magic pen marks, flat health seals, and ability power glyphs. This, in my opinion, is the most efficient set of runes for maximum early game damage with very decent survivability. Sometimes I'll also substitute one AP quint for a movement speed one. Personally, it fits in well with my playstyle of brand support, which is running around a lot, poking and zoning my opponents, and overall just applying a lot of pressure. In rounding out your build as Bran, you want a Rabadon's death cap, and where you go from there is pretty open-ended. I've seen a lot of brands building CDR boots, but I personally don't think CDR on Brand is all that important, as his abilities all have pretty low cooldowns, but the stat definitely doesn't hurt him. I usually go Frost Queen's Claim into Rylai's, into Sorcerer's Boots, into Leandries, into Rabadon's, and to finish I'd choose from either a Zonya's, a Luden's Echo, an Abyssal Scepter, or a Void Staff, but you can fit almost any item into this slot. Guys, this is so overpowered at the moment, it's ridiculous. Give it a shot in one of your games and observe as you destroy everyone. Believe me, it is amazing. Above all, I find Bran really fun to play. He provides an awesome damage threat to a team, and upon finishing Rylai's also has some amazing utility about him. This unfortunately brings me to the end of the video. Leave me a comment below on what you thought. If you enjoyed this video, check out my channel for more educational stuff, and subscribe if you like my shit. See you checking out. See you next time.